Hi there, how are you guys? I'm Ahsan Shaw, and you are watching me on Facebook and YouTube Live. I'm a freelance business writer, and more than 120 business articles are published under my name. Today, we are going to discuss a very interesting topic, just like every week, is marketing or mind manipulation. How big corporations manipulate the minds of ordinary people. Uh, COVID-19 is a recent example before us. We were told in the beginning that the virus was contagious. We were supposed to stay inside the doors. But later on, we were told that it's not contagious anymore. So it's just one example, one just latest example. There could be many other examples. And in this session today, we are going to discuss most of them. To discuss this topic, I have a very interesting guest, and he is also my friend, and his name is Edward Konowicz. He has joined us from Virginia, United States. Hi, Ed. How are you?
Hi, Ahsan. Pretty good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. So, what do you think about our topic?
Okay, I'm going to approach it in a little bit different way. I like a
Okay,
historical reference, and what I want
okay.
to reference is the East Indian Company of England,
Hmm. Yes.
which is um, international corporations are serving the so-called royal families, such as the English nobility. And the East
Hmm.
Indian Company, which pushed the opium trade into China, had at one time 150,000 soldiers or mercenaries working for it.
Hmm.
So the British Crown didn't have to project directly. They used the East India Company, and tea was
Hmm.
part of the cover, but one of its
Hmm.
major products was opium. And actually, England, along with France, fought a war to monopolize the
Hmm.
opium trade to China.
Hmm.
And I think we're dealing with a similar things. Today, we don't have opium, we have opioids. We have
Hmm.
pharmaceutical companies basically doing the same thing. And
Hmm.
the we want to look at mind control not only in terms of advertising,
Hmm.
but we want to look at it in terms of control of government,
Hmm.
which is
I think I think it starts with marketing. Marketing is it's not just only selling of products. Everything is about marketing and branding. Don't you agree?
marketing and what.
Marketing and branding.
Yeah, marketing though is more um, underneath in this sense.
Hmm.
There's only two
Hmm.
countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical advertising on TV,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that's the United States and New Zealand.
Hmm.
And the advertisements really do not promote drugs. The advertisements actually talk about the side effects, the damaging side
Hmm.
effects, like for antidepressant drugs, the major side effect is suicide.
Hmm.
So they're not marketing it. What they're doing by the advertisements is paying off, giving millions of dollars to the mainstream media so that
Hmm.
the journalists are not allowed to do stories about the damage caused by the drugs, which is the
Hmm.
news media is getting so many millions of dollars in advertisement. A reporter
Hmm.
is not allowed to report about the side effects of a drug.
Hmm.
So the marketing is secondary. The primary thing is control of the media, control of the
Hmm.
government. And
Hmm.
will there's a company like the East Indian Company
Hmm.
um, called Serco. which seems
mhm,
to back up to the royal family again. And their
mhm,
policy supposedly is what I've read, because everything's what you read, is they hire ex-government officials in order to get government contracts. So
mhm,
one of the major marketing strategies today is to secure government contracts.
hmm.
See,
Yes,
we
to
think
achieve the
controlling
goal,
the mind of the
to achieve,
consumer, but it's really
okay, to,
controlling the government, which controls
mhm,
the mind of the people.
yes,
Repeat
and
that.
to achieve those,
Let me
to
just
achieve
repeat
those
this.
government, yes,
We think it's controlled through commercials or
mhm,
advertisements, but the real
mhm,
control is basically buying government officials, and the government
mhm,
has the mind control
mhm,
to allow products to be forced upon the people.
mhm,
So, in the COVID 19 that you mentioned,
mhm,
vaccines are going to be pushed, if not forced, upon the public by the government. So
mhm.
the vaccine manufacturers do not have to market.
Yes,
They
it's a
basically,
government is doing their job on their behalf.
right.
Yes.
So the basic idea is to control politicians, and by
Mhm,
controlling politicians to control the government, thereby to create their market. The idea today is
mhm,
to create a market. And to give you a good example, pharmaceutical executives say, don't push
mhm,
the drug, push the
mhm,
illness. So the marketing
mhm,
strategy in pharmaceuticals is
mhm.
to exaggerate the disease like they're exaggerating COVID 19.
Yes, first they create the problem, then people have no other choice but to accept their solution.
Yes, that's their policy, create the problem
Mhm,
and
mhm,
then provide the official solution.
mhm, mhm. It's the government narrative.
And then have troops, which are police,
Mhm,
enforce the solution. And that's what the East
mhm,
Indian Company did. They
mhm,
enforced their market.
mhm,
So we're dealing with the same thing today as the East Indian Company, which was the
mhm,
power of the British Empire. We're
mhm,
dealing with international corporations that are using the
mhm,
same strategy as the East India Company of England
mhm.
or
I
Britain.
think
I mean,
yes. I think it has been. If we look at East Indian Company, there's no East Indian country company right now. We don't see it, but we see many other companies doing the same job.
yeah, and it's complicated because these global companies are basically interlocked with each other because the board of
Mhm,
directors are frequently the same people.
mhm.
We repeat that the board of
Exactly.
directors are
Are the
frequently the
same
same
people.
people for all these
Mhm,
companies.
mhm. Or if they are not the same people, they have the same similar interest.
Yes, they have similar interests and they're from a similar economic class.
Mhm,
So they associate with each other and have a consensus with each other.
mhm.
And so
So that's.
marketing is based upon what used to be called FUD, F-U-D,
Mhm,
fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So if you can
mhm,
place fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which is the problem,
mhm,
create the
mhm,
problem, and
mhm,
then provide a solution that supposedly reduces fear, uncertainty, and doubt,
mhm,
then most people choose a simple solution. They don't want a complicated solution.
mhm,
And I think that's the problem with agriculture. I mean, one of
mhm.
the
I
major
think.
products
Mhm,
of Pakistan
mhm.
is
I,
agriculture, cotton, um,
yes.
wheat, rice.
Wheat, yes,
And so there's the issue of
vegetable.
irrigation, which is
Mm-hmm,
very difficult for individuals. I mean, they do this tube welling because it's easy,
mm-hmm.
but the water
Yes,
table is getting lower and lower and lower
every
as
year, every year.
yeah. So we're headed for disaster because only really the government has the facilities to manage the water table correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise
Yes.
farmers are just going to do what they need to do to survive. And
Mm-hmm.
the next issue is, insecticides and herbicides,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a hidden cost on getting people
Mm-hmm.
sick, people having cancer. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to look at larger costs. So the key
Mm-hmm.
in all of this is to have an honest government that is
Mm-hmm.
concerned for the health and well-being of the people of the country. Because an
Mm-hmm.
individual or a farmer can't do this on their own. It's
Yes,
very difficult.
yes. There are
So,
things that you can manage, and there's a job of government. So it works in the balance.
and it work, and people. What's important is people need to become aware that profit, which is accumulation of money, is not the
Mm-hmm.
objective. The objective is to reduce the suffering of people
Mm-hmm.
intelligently. I mean, in a sense that, of course, someone who works harder or who is smarter should have more. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking at government control in terms of a socialist or communist situation, but I'm looking at in terms of regulations that are done
Mm-hmm.
and information that is given that helps
Mm-hmm.
people to do things better. And
Mm-hmm.
particularly in farming, it can be overwhelming because of pressures to keep the price of food low in order to feed people. The
Mm-hmm.
farmer is at odds to cut costs. By cutting costs by using the cheapest insecticide or herbicide may be harmful to the workers in the field, may be harmful to the farmers, and harmful to the people consuming the food. So there has to be
Mm-hmm.
a balance in where we're looking at costs in terms of human cost, environmental cost, and that really requires very good research and scientists who are honest.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Indeed.
marketing is to present a simple solution. People want a simple
Mm-hmm.
solution, like
Mm-hmm.
wearing a mask is a solution to the spread of COVID, and it obviously is not.
It's
So
not a solution.
so marketing is to present a simple solution. Whether it works or not, people are going to go for a simple solution.
Mm-hmm. And I think we cannot blame the government to some extent because uh, when we talk about the mass population, people don't want the complicated, the whole theory, the whole science behind it. They want a simple solution. So the government has, I think, or I think people are accustomed to the simple solution, just one or two line solution. They don't want complications. If you tell them the whole science, they are not going to listen to you. Just tell them wear the mask. Okay, it's easy.
Yes, that's correct. So basically, control the market is to create
Mm-hmm.
fear, uncertainty, and doubt about a situation such as COVID 19 or farming, and then offer a simple solution. And people will
Mm-hmm.
accept the simple solution. And the way
Mm-hmm.
these corporations do that is they hire ex government officials, pay them well, and
Mm-hmm.
then influence government policy. So then people believe the simple solution is the official solution.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires people just need to become more educated.
Hmm.
I mean, today a
Yes.
lot of people are criticizing education, and for
mhm,
valid reasons. I mean, education, like any profession, whether it's engineering or
mhm,
medicine,
mhm,
tends to be compromised by the profit motive or by
mhm,
politics. But it doesn't mean you throw out the baby with the bathwater. You have to
mhm,
filter your education,
mhm.
but
Yes, indeed.
particularly scientific method, which is how do you have
Mhm,
controls and experiments, gather data, how do you analyze it, is really important.
mhm.
So
So,
the control of the market is
mhm,
basically to create fear.
mhm,
You have this disease or you have this food shortage. Here's the solution,
mhm,
and to provide a simple solution by controlling the media and by
mhm,
controlling the government.
mhm,
So it's a battle between consumer groups who put
mhm,
pressure on government officials to correct problems correctly, correct
mhm,
correct problems in a way that is going to look at overall costs, because
mhm,
there's hidden costs.
mhm.
There's nothing free in the universe. You have to pay for anything you get. There's
Absolutely,
always a cost.
absolutely right.
So
Mhm,
the issue today is the marketing of vaccines,
mhm,
because whether some vaccines are necessary or not all vaccines are necessary. Not all
mhm,
vaccines are safe. We have a
mhm,
magazine in the United States called Consumer Reports, in which
mhm,
different types of cars, washing machines, cell phones are evaluated. Well, the same thing should be with drugs. Different types of
mhm,
drugs, vaccines should be intelligently evaluated in terms of their effectiveness, in terms of their side effects. And the pharmaceutical industry has enough money that they
mhm,
stop proper evaluation. I think a good example of that is the tetanus vaccine. If the
mhm,
tetanus vaccine works, why
mhm,
do I have to get pertussis and diphtheria at the same time? I should just be able to get the vaccine that I feel I need. I shouldn't have to get other vaccines that I feel I don't need. I should have the
mhm.
choice, just like a consumer,
Yes.
to
Mhm,
evaluate this. The problem is today, choice is being removed from the market.
mhm.
I mean, your choice
So,
of cars or your choice
mhm,
of, of a sofa or a chair or a piano
mhm,
is generally not going to affect your health and well being.
mhm,
So you actually need more choice in medicine because
mhm.
that is going to affect your life. So
When you
the
talk about when we talk about the medicine pharmaceutical companies, then the problem is people really, most of the people, I'm talking about the majority of the people, they don't know the basic of is the science or the formulas of different brands and how they work. So people really don't have a choice. They are dependent on the government, on the doctors, or on their physicians to give them the prescription. And those people, they work for the corporations.
Yeah, that's a major problem today. That technology
Hmm.
has advanced, whether it's medicine, whether it's
Hmm.
cell phones, where
Hmm.
people have a hard time evaluating the benefits
Hmm.
versus the disadvantages of the technology.
Hmm. Most of the people are just users. They are ordinary users. They are not the scientists. They don't understand those things. The only thing they don't want to understand these things. They don't have time to understand those things. The only thing they want is to use them. They and those companies, they are making the technology and those things, medicine, all of those luxurious things. They are making it user friendly, so people don't have to look behind the doors. They have only just to use it. They are just users.
The interesting thing is, not everyone has to be informed.
Mhm. Yes,
Um,
it's a very good
reform
point.
reform has always been done by a few people. For
Mhm,
example, in the West with Christianity,
mhm,
reform was done by Martin Luther, who
mhm,
translated the Latin Bible into
mhm,
Germany into German language, and then
mhm,
done by the English, who translated it into English. And then there
mhm,
was different interpretations of Christianity that you could choose.
mhm,
Um, and then we came to the United States, where a few individuals stood up and said they wanted freedom of belief, where all
mhm,
religion or no religion could be chosen. So you only
mhm,
need a few people. And the way it
mhm,
used to be done in the United States was you would have a congressional hearing, which is our parliament, our
mhm,
legislator would meet, call in different experts that disagreed with each other, hold a
mhm,
hearing, and present it to
mhm,
the public, and the mainstream media would present the debate, and then people
mhm,
could choose. That due
mhm,
process of having official debates that are meaningful, that actually has its opposing sides, has been dismantled. So there is a
mhm,
mechanism where you can establish a few informed people, have the debates, and then help the public choose between the different alternatives. That process
mhm,
has been broken down.
mhm,
And that was part of the parliamentary procedures.
mhm,
And this has been a big debate between the executive power and the parliamentary power. And of course, the
mhm,
parliamentary power has been compromised by lobbyists and campaign funds. So in the United
mhm,
States, we've lost our freedom via campaign funds, which is for a Congress candidate to run for office. They need millions
mhm,
of dollars. For a
mhm,
president to run, they need tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds. So the people who control the capital
mhm.
control the political offices at this point. So the
Indeed.
debates for the common person, what is going to be the best way of reducing harm. And it's complicated. I mean, it's not simple, but we can come up with a solution. Unfortunately, there are these large corporations that are preventing the solution.
Yes. And those corporations, they have their representative in the government, and they are defending, they are doing their job in the Congress or in the debates. They elect the president that is funded by those corporations.
And I think, I am not formally religious. I don't believe in
Mhm,
one religion. I study
mhm,
all of them and try to find the
mhm.
best of each.
Okay.
But there seems to be, this is going to sound unusual, there seems to be an evil influence in the world, even
Mhm.
without people. And
Yes.
we sort of have to have a certain amount of faith and goodness to
Mhm,
struggle against that evil influence that seems to be controlling the world.
mhm.
So we can't leave
When we
out
talk,
this, shouldn't leave out the spiritual dimension, that we're
mhm,
fighting something that enjoys the suffering of human beings and other animals.
mhm. Indeed.
So it's a struggle. We're in a struggle
Mhm,
that is thousands of years old,
mhm.
and now we're in a
So
struggle
you
mainly
have
against toxins. Our
Mhm.
struggle today
You have
is
just
against poisons.
mhm. You have just mentioned beliefs and the religion and the spiritual dimension, and it said it's a evil influence all over the world. So, what do you mean by that?
I wish I knew. no one full I no one fully understands it. It just seems that
Mhm,
greedy, sadistic people who can act
mhm,
normal are promoted. Let me repeat that.
mhm,
It seems that
mhm,
greedy, sadistic people are
mhm,
promoted to places of influence. And it also seems
mhm,
that good and honest people are targeted or harmed.
mhm,
And that's been true for thousands of years. And I think
mhm,
that's why religion has arisen, because it's recognizing there's a struggle between good and evil.
mhm.
And
So,
today, it seems the biggest struggle, because it's good to simplify, is
mhm,
is our struggle is against being
mhm,
poisoned against too much insecticides, herbicides, toxins and
mhm.
vaccines,
Y-
too much
Yes, in the
pharmaceutical
agriculture
drugs.
industry.
So,
Mhm,
so basically, it seems our struggle is to keep our bodies safe from poison,
mhm,
and that seems to be the battle. And we
mhm.
we
Between,
we can't have
between the good and evil.
right. We can't
Mhm,
have a fancy house and a fancy car and good health.
mhm.
We have to start
Yes,
choosing that health is part of our wealth.
yes,
So
indeed.
we have to reduce money
Mhm,
profit, in order to
mhm,
be healthier, which is more important.
mhm.
And
So,
the
yeah.
marketing is the opposite. The marketing is to promote profits, to
Mhm,
promote easy solutions.
mhm,
When we to be healthy, we have to watch what we eat. We have to exercise. We have to be disciplined to get enough rest. We have to
mhm,
keep on learning, because
mhm,
there's things we don't understand that affect our health.
mhm,
So it's a very difficult struggle, which is
mhm,
we can sit here and talk, but once
mhm,
we leave here talking, we're in that struggle to survive. And unfortunately, people have been programmed by
mhm,
most countries that economics is the most important, when I think health
mhm.
is more important than economics.
Yes. If you are healthy, your body is working fine, then you can do anything. Once you are sick, your body started losing, you have started losing control over your body, then you can't do anything. So even if you have all the wealth, but your body isn't working, so what's the point of having all of the wealth or all the money in your account? It's just useless to you. I've seen people like facing the same dilemma.
Yeah, I sort of feel this was ancient Greek thinking,
Mhm,
that there's three
mhm,
fates. The three fates are: one, if you are not intelligent, if you're too ignorant, you're
mhm,
not going to live that long. You
mhm,
have to have a certain amount of intelligence, even if it's just called common sense. Number two,
mhm,
you need to be ethical. Now, you can
mhm,
be unethical and live long, but your
mhm,
soul or your freedom is going to be removed from you. You can see this with the super wealthy. They all have
mhm,
to agree on climate change. They have to agree on this carbon footprint. They have to agree on COVID-19. So the super
mhm.
wealthy don't have freedom. They have to agree
Yeah.
with each other.
Mhm.
So you pay a
So,
price for being unethical. It might take
mhm,
a long time for the price to come, whereas if
mhm,
you're not intelligent and you drive in a reckless way, you'll pay a price
mhm,
pretty quickly. And the last thing, if you are intelligent and you are ethical,
mhm,
something gets you to overwork.
mhm,
And you have to be very careful about not exhausting yourself because a lot of disease and illness comes from working too hard.
mhm,
So if you're ethical and intelligent, you have to avoid exhausting yourself. It's very common.
mhm,
So that's how I see the three fates, which is I'm somewhat of a classical thinker, which
mhm,
is I see the same problems as being around for thousands of years. I just see the corporations today as another
mhm,
version of the India Company
no,
of Britain.
mhm,
And I think we
yeah,
have to be very careful about protecting our health and well being from the abuses
mhm,
of so called profits. Now,
mhm,
it's important to look at um, communist nations or ex communist nations like China
mhm,
to see they have the same
mhm,
problems because they're driven by economic success. Whether you're
mhm,
driven by profit or economic success is the same problem, which is you
mhm.
should not sacrifice human health. For example, in
Mhm.
Wuhan, where the COVID 19 um,
Was started.
started, was one of the
Mhm.
most polluted cities in the world. And people there were
Yes.
protesting of the pollution, which is they were risking their life to protest against the Chinese government because
Mhm.
they were already risking their lives in the pollution. So the
Mhm.
pollution played a major role in the pneumonia that people got in Wuhan.
Mhm.
So we don't want to look at this is part of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt is the corporations and the governments want to simplify that disease has one cause, but it's
Mhm.
rare for disease to have one cause.
Mhm.
There was the economic pollution, the economic
Mhm.
overwork, the
Mhm.
virus, and then
Mhm.
improper treatment in the medical facilities. So medical malpractice played a major role in killing people with COVID 19 because the protocols or the procedures were more based on economic success than on health. Let me repeat that.
Mhm.
Many
Yes.
of the procedures in the hospitals were more based on economics than
Mhm.
concern for the health of people. So medical
Yes.
practice played a role in the death of many of the so called COVID 19 patients,
Mhm.
particularly the use of opioids,
Mhm.
which is we're back to opium and the opium
Mhm.
wars and the East Indian Company, because now instead of
Mhm.
opium, it's opioids like fentanyl that are killing
Mhm.
people. But instead
Mhm.
of it being an opium den where people are smoking opium, it's the
Mhm.
hospitals that are getting people addicted and damaging their body with the overuse of opioid drugs. And
Mhm.
it's up to academic people like myself to try to help inform the public of
Mhm.
issues they're not receiving in the mass media. For
Mhm.
example, the mass media is not emphasizing that Wuhan, where COVID 19 began, had very
Mhm.
serious air pollution that was a factor in the pneumonia that was
Mhm.
being diagnosed.
Mhm.
So it's not only one solution. There's
Mhm.
also the claim there's just one problem, and really there's multiple problems.
Yes.
That was a lot of information we covered in a very short time.
Mhm. Yes, we have. You have mentioned East India Company, pollution in China, and the problem with corporations and the government. So, so what do you think about marketing? The role of marketing. You have just mentioned. You have also mentioned that there is a war going on between good and evil, and there's spiritual dimension, uh, or I would say evil influence across the world.
I did not hear your last two sentences.
Okay, okay. The marketing, the job of marketing is based on the profit.
You're cut off again.
Get that? Okay. The job of the marketing is based on the profit, and I think it creates a cycle of it's an unending cycle of profit marketing, and it's an unending cycle of evil. So it's going on over and over again for centuries. Uh, people want profit. They want to earn something. They want to make their living, and they have no other choice to make their living in the society except to earn profit.
Yeah, it's difficult because you have to separate
Mhm,
reasonable profit from unreasonable profit, and that's very subjective.
mhm,
I mean, if someone comes up with a very good idea, they
mhm,
deserve a lot of profit. But then some
mhm,
people come up with a not so good idea and have a
mhm,
lot of profit. So
mhm,
where do you draw the line?
mhm,
I think it's like some antibiotics do more help than harm. Some antibiotics do more harm than help. And that
mhm,
sometimes depends on the individual. So
mhm,
it's a constant process to discern, which is to understand what's going on. And it
mhm,
just requires a lot of intelligence, which is
mhm,
education can be the key if education is educating people. The problem is a
mhm,
lot of education has been censored, which is the biggest,
mhm,
I think, the biggest problem today, besides toxins,
mhm,
is censorship.
mhm.
The news is being censored, government officials are being censored by their political parties.
Even
So
the posts on
censorship,
social media, even the posts and tweets on social media, they are also censored.
yeah, even right, Facebook and social media censors.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
we're living in a cage of censorship.
yes.
So, and it's important we summarize here, people can understand.
Mhm,
We have two
mhm,
problems. One is toxins, which
mhm,
is the hidden cost because your
mhm,
health is your most important resource.
mhm,
Then two, censorship, so that
mhm,
you cannot get the information needed to make important choices in your life. So
mhm,
part of marketing today is censorship.
mhm.
Let me repeat that. Part of marketing is censorship, which is to stop criticizing
How?
criticism of the product.
Mhm. So how marketing is censorship?
Marketing is censorship in the United States by the pharmaceutical companies paying tens of millions of dollars for advertisement so
Mhm,
journalists cannot do a story criticizing their products.
mhm,
Censorship goes on in social media by fact
mhm,
checking institutions
mhm,
that are run by corporations.
mhm,
Corporations have three ways of marketing.
mhm,
One is through think tanks.
mhm,
Corporations employ think tanks, which have
mhm,
experts, usually with PhDs, that are
mhm,
then the experts that go on the television and in the newspapers, but they're
mhm,
working for the corporations, the experts. The
mhm,
second way corporations do marketing is through charity, NGOs, non government organizations, and foundations like Bill Gates.
mhm,
Bill and Melinda
mhm,
Gates have a
mhm,
foundation, a charity that
mhm,
controls the World Health Organization to a large extent,
mhm,
and
mhm,
therefore they market through their charity.
mhm. They market their agenda through charities,
Yeah.
and those NGOs they rely on the funding of those charities.
And then the third way is by controlling politicians, which is
Mhm,
lobbying, which
mhm,
is so we have the three tools of marketing that are not recognized in
mhm,
economic.
mhm,
First way is through think tanks,
mhm.
which are, Heritage
Individuals, highly.
Foundations, Council on Foreign Relations. They're
Mhm,
these privately funded organizations that hire experts
mhm,
that
mhm,
then control the expert opinions in the media.
mhm,
The
mhm,
second way is through charities or non government organizations, foundations like the
mhm,
Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that control
mhm,
an NGO, sort of
mhm,
like the World Health Organization.
mhm,
And the third way is through lobbyists and giving jobs to government officials. So
mhm,
in the United States, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, and
mhm,
also the HHS, the Health and Human Resources Services, they're
mhm,
controlled by corporations. So marketing
mhm,
is no longer just advertising and commercials,
mhm,
it's setting up
mhm,
think tanks,
mhm,
foundations, and
mhm,
hiring government officials and lobbying.
mhm,
Those are the mainstays of marketing on in terms of the large corporations.
mhm,
So we're not going to see as much advertisements for high technology on the
mhm,
television anymore because the corporations have figured out more successful ways of marketing their product than through
mhm,
advertisements. You're not going to
mhm.
see advertisements for vaccines
Indeed.
because the marketing is done through think tanks, non-government organizations, foundations, and through government officials.
Mhm.
So we have
I
to look
think
at
if.
marketing in much broader terms.
Mhm. Marketing, indeed, you're right. Marketing is a much broader term. And if we follow this structure, then it's a very systematic process because first you see the highly intellectual people, they are working for those corporations. And the second is charities, just like Bill and Melinda Gates. And the third is a lobbyist. They are creating jobs for the government officials. Isn't it right?
Yeah, that's correct. No, I think
And
that's the main
when
idea.
we.
I think we've
Hmm,
covered it, and I think we need to see this in a historical perspective. And that's
okay.
why I emphasize the India
Hmm,
Company of Britain,
hmm,
how Britain used
hmm,
a corporation to control India and China.
Hmm. Okay.
I think we covered enough. Do you want to? Do you have
Okay.
any questions?
Okay. Okay. You have just mentioned the East India Company. So, did they follow the same procedure?
Well, it's a little bit different today because the the these companies don't need to use troops.
Mm-hmm.
They use doctors, they use government officials, they use
Mm-hmm.
reporters. So where people used to be forced at gunpoint,
Mm-hmm.
they're now forced by government law.
Mm-hmm.
And that can back up to gunpoint with police.
Mm-hmm.
But today, the corporations have learned to use bureaucracy
Mm-hmm.
rather than soldiers. So we're
Mm-hmm.
not in a world war of soldiers, we're
Mm-hmm.
in a world war dealing with bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to be fighting the Opium War or the Boxer
Mm-hmm.
Rebellion in China.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be civilians that don't want vaccines, that don't want psychiatric drugs. And then the government comes in and tries to enforce the psychiatric drugs, tries to enforce the vaccines against people's will.
Mm-hmm.
So the modern troops are police.
Mm-hmm.
Where people used to send in soldiers like into Beijing or Shanghai, they now
Mm-hmm.
send in the police against families
Mm-hmm.
and individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So war has become more personal,
Mm-hmm.
and these corporations are using the local government to enforce their
Mm-hmm.
profit.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think? What should be the solution
Okay, let
if
me read this.
we
We have a comment from
if we
Martin.
have a comment? Okay.
It's
Okay.
purely a mind manipulation instead of having a competent teams purely dedicated for marketing purposes. Organizations have teams that perform continuous surveys, update the data bank, people, and act accordingly. Yes, I do think, which I didn't cover, thank you, Martin,
Mm-hmm.
is the
Mm-hmm.
corporations are using social media to
Mm-hmm.
gather personal information in
Mm-hmm.
order to shape their marketing and their strategies by how people's thinking are is changing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, corporations are marketing data. And this is an important point today. And Matten made a very important point that
Mm-hmm.
corporations today are using Facebook and other social media to gather
Mm-hmm.
data to make their marketing more efficient. Thank you
Yes,
for that
yeah,
comment.
it's a very good comment, and he mentioned a very good point. It was in my mind, but it wasn't just coming to it. Okay, and they use the data bank from the corporation for just like the data bank of Facebook, Google, and all the browsers.
Then which shows you, two people or three people
Mhm,
cannot gather as much information as a group. A
mhm,
group of people
mhm,
can
mhm,
help each other cover
mhm,
points and ideas that are
mhm,
not seen by just one or two people. Now, I
mhm,
think that's what's important, and you understand this. We have to
mhm.
communicate with a lot of other people to increase
Yes,
our own intelligence. We can't be our
you're
only
right.
source of intelligence.
Indeed, indeed. So, what should be the solution? If you look at this the whole system, then it's a very systematic process. There are corporations. They have hired highly intellectual people, and they are working in the media, in the government, and they are doing their bidding. It's the first part, and the second part is charities, and those charities they are funding uh, the NGOs like and other organizations. WHO is a very good example, and third is lobbyists. So all of these things, they may seem different, but they are working together collectively to achieve one's agenda. So what should be the solution for an ordinary person?
Well, what we're doing now is part of the solution. People need
Mhm,
to discuss these issues,
mhm,
and then there is a, I think, a spiritual force for goodness. As we become
mhm,
aware of it, people help each other
mhm,
develop workarounds. I don't. There's no perfect solution, but we have workarounds and how we can protect ourselves and avoid some of the
mhm,
problems. I don't think we
mhm,
necessarily solve the problems. I think it's more about avoiding the problems as much
mhm,
as possible. And by avoiding the
mhm,
problems, we diminish them.
mhm. We
But that's
don't. The
philosophical. I
problem.
mean, I get very philosophical.
Okay, okay, I understand that. Yes, you are a philosophical and intellectual person, and you have been teaching, I don't know, 15 years or how long?
Teaching, I taught at the college level 25 years.
Yeah, you have a 25 years of experience and a very intellectual person. And the problem, you have just provided a solution that the problem is a very systematic process of mind manipulation. If we have to fight it, then we cannot fight it. You just have to avoid it, isn't it
Yeah,
right?
avoid it and bypass it.
Mhm.
And it's that works.
Mhm. Yes, that works. Because if you confront it, then you become the center of attention. Then it becomes easier for those corporations to remove you. They can discredit you. They can remove you. They can use different means to get you out from their way.
Yeah, but I agree. Generally it's is wise to avoid
Mhm,
confrontation.
mhm,
And I think there is something, whether you call it God or Allah, that
mhm,
if you are a compassionate, intelligent person, most of the
mhm,
time, not always, but
mhm,
most of the time you can avoid evil. But
mhm,
you have to be somewhat inspired because you have to know a little bit ahead of time how to avoid.
mhm,
Like it's sort of like
mhm,
up ahead, you see someone who's swerving with their car because they
mhm,
probably either are drinking alcohol or on some drug or falling asleep. So you don't
mhm,
want to be around that car that's swerving. So you slow
mhm,
down or you pull off until that
mhm,
situation is past you. There's some things we
mhm,
cannot solve. And wisdom is to
mhm.
recognize we don't have to solve everything in the world. We have to avoid
Yes,
what is harmful to us and others.
yes, indeed. And I think you have just mentioned a very good. There's one more thing that just came to my mind that because once you are in a minority, you cannot solve it. You just have to mm, spread the word. You just have to make other people informed, just like we are doing it. So when everyone around you, they recognize the problem. So yeah, I think things will get better. Don't you agree?
Yes, I think so. And
Mm-hmm,
reform is done by a few people,
mm-hmm,
but you need faith and goodness. You have to
mm-hmm,
believe in some type of divine power or a higher
mm-hmm,
level of goodness because
mm-hmm,
you are a minority.
mm-hmm,
But I've been a minority most of my life. I mean, I had a lot of friends and a lot of
mhm,
interaction, but
mhm,
I never represented the majority. I'm
mhm,
kind of an independent thinker,
mhm,
and but it's very challenging.
mhm.
No one
You're
gets
right.
through life without suffering. We all
Mhm.
suffer.
Yes, because there are many things, as we have just discussed it earlier, that not everyone needs to be informed about the situation, because there are many people in the society. They don't want the science or the theory behind the solution. They just want a simple one line, two-line thing, wear the mask. So they we have to characterize those people. The people who fall in that category, you just tell them what to do. And the other thing is the people who are sensitive about the environment, about the government, about the system, and everything. Uh, they they are cautious about things. They are in a minority, so the only thing they have got is to spread the word and make people informed and avoid the confrontation.
Yeah, I don't believe in confrontation because
Mhm,
reform is only done by a minority, and the
mhm,
minority does not have the power to confront.
mhm, mhm,
Now, eventually things come down to you. You may have to, like in the um, the books of religion, like a prophet, you may have to
mhm,
hold the line. At some
mhm,
point, you may have to be like a see who's a good example of it. Daniel in the lion's den.
mhm,
At some point, like Daniel, you're going to be facing
mhm,
a lion, and you're
mhm.
just going to need a lot of courage.
By the way, who is Daniel?
Daniel is a prophet in the Old Testament that
Okay.
that was against the or perceived as being against the king, and he was put in the lion's den with hungry lions as
Mhm,
punishment, and the lions did not eat him.
mhm,
So we, at some point, we, not out of our own volition or will
mhm,
face a major confrontation with what could be called evil or the beast. And
mhm,
at that point, we do need courage.
mhm.
So, but most of the times we can avoid confrontation.
Yes, you just there are two things I think you need. First is courage, and the second thing is majority. You have to gather around people who have the same like-minded people to agree with you and to back you up.
I would use the word harmony. I don't think people
Mhm,
can fully agree with each other, but they can still be in
mhm,
harmony, sort of
mhm,
like a symphony orchestra. All the
mhm,
instruments do not play the same note, do not make the same sound, but they can
mhm,
still be in harmony, which
mhm,
is we can differ with people, but
mhm,
still play along with them because they're people of goodwill, which is we
mhm,
can get along with people of goodwill and
mhm,
toleration. We don't need
mhm,
agreement, but we
mhm,
do need that harmony. And we have to be very careful when there is
mhm,
conflict.
mhm,
My own feeling is avoid disrespect. Don't let
mhm,
someone disrespect you, and don't disrespect someone else.
mhm.
Try as best as you can to avoid disrespect.
Mhm. I follow the same procedure. My first priority is to respect everyone and avoid confrontation. And sometimes I do confront old habits, but uh, I have managed it over time. That now I prefer not to confront and uh, avoid
Yeah, I think we have to speak the truth gently.
Hmm. Yes.
We don't have to yell the truth. Truth has power in
Hmm.
itself.
Hmm. Indeed. So I think it's been an hour. Then we have discussed and covered a lot of things about marketing, mind manipulation. We have we have discussed East Indian Company, agriculture, pharmaceutical companies, and the mass vaccination system, and the three ways of the things that are not discussed in the mainstream media and mainstream textbooks about mind manipulation, charities, lobbying, and the first was hiring the intellectual people. And
Let me make one
yes,
comment
and
because
yes,
I'll regret
yes,
not saying. Mind manipulation or casting a spell,
uh,
which is
mhm,
witchcraft, is to repeat
mhm,
something over and over again. The major
mhm,
mind rep, the major mind manipulation being done today is using
mhm,
the media to repeat something every day, relentless
mhm,
repetition,
mhm.
which is people will believe a lie if it's repeated
Mhm.
enough.
Yes.
I'm finished.
Yeah,
I just want to make
yeah.
that point because I think that's important.
No, you have mentioned a very good point. It was in my mind earlier, but I forgot to discuss it. It's a repetition of your ideas. Once you have to repeat it over and over again, so it becomes true. So people start believing in it. It doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. When you start repeating it over and over again, and people are gonna follow it sooner or later. That's how mind
Yes.
manipulation works. And yeah, finally, we have the most important thing we have discussed is avoid the confrontation. You don't need to yell the truth.
Well, we didn't. I
Yes.
didn't discuss Pavlovian conditioning, which is to
Hmm.
associate something with a bell, and then. And let me just say this. This is important. Pavlov
Hmm.
was a Russian psychologist, and he
Hmm.
put a dog in a contraption, and when he would feed the dog, he rang the bell.
Hmm.
So if you do that enough, you ring the bell, the dog will salivate, though there's no food. The dog will
Hmm.
begin digestive processes, then there's no food. But the way it's
Hmm.
done today is they
Hmm.
associate the bell with the
Hmm.
food, remove the food, ring the bell, and give a person
Hmm.
the poison. So a
Hmm.
lot of mind control is done by association, which is you ring the
Yes.
bell with something good, ring it again with
Hmm.
something good, ring it by itself.
Hmm.
The person has that response, and now you can give them poison because they've been conditioned
Hmm.
to believe the bell is something good.
Yes. That's how it's been working in the media and also mainstream media. And I think we have covered enough and
Yeah.
spent more than an hour. And thank you so much, Ed, for joining us. And it was wonderful discussing it with you and listening your ideas. And yeah, if you guys have questions, please leave it in the comment box below. I'll answer it or add in answer it later on. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you.
listening.
Mhm.
Okay. Bye.